In Raymond James Stadium, which is the home of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there is a pirate ship. The ship is 103 feet long and is behind the north end zone near the scoreboard. It makes sense with the team being called the Buccaneers, and it's been there since the stadium opened in 1998. One of the cool things about it is that it has cannons on it that fire confetti after a Buccaneers touchdown. People can also go onto the ship and watch the game from there. It's made of steel and concrete and costed about $3 million to build. The Minnesota Vikings also have a ship at their stadium, but that one is outside of the actual stadium and is a smaller scale. But inside, in a small area high up at US Bank Stadium, there's a horn that a special guest blows into at the beginning of every game. Another interesting fan experience at a stadium is the pool inside the Jaguars Stadium. It's called TIAA Bank Field, and it opened in 1995, but was renovated several times. Part of a renovation in 2013 was adding 2 pools. The pools are located high up in the corner of one of the end zones. The area also has a bar, a dog park, and is a nice place to relax and watch the game if it's a really hot day out. In the Las Vegas Raiders' new stadium, which opened in 2020, there's a nightclub beyond the north end zone. The club is owned by Wynn Resorts and is 11,000 square feet. It goes the entire length of the end zone. There are couches, tables, and over 40 TVs in the club. There's also 2 DJ booths inside of it. Ticket prices are anywhere from $500 to over $1,000 per fan to get into the club for a game. There's a couple more interesting things about Allegiant Stadium. One is that on the stadium, but on the outside of it, there's a giant video screen. They can play whatever they want on it for people outside the stadium to see. It's a 27,000 square foot screen, which is just crazy to think about. Another thing is the playing surface for the Raiders field can be moved inside and outside of the stadium. There's a 4-foot deep tray that's moved in and out. The surface for the Raiders is natural grass, and when it's outside, it can get all of the sunlight that it needs. When it's on the outside, it sits in a fenced-in area. There's also artificial turf that they have for when UNLV plays there. They aren't the only place to do this though. State Farm Stadium in Arizona does as well. That's where the Arizona Cardinals play, and they have a grass field that can be moved in and out just like the Raiders. State Farm Stadium opened in 2006 and does have a retractable roof as well. The rollout of the field grass takes about 70 minutes to complete. This lets them have other events inside the stadium like concerts without ruining the natural grass surface of the playing field. The Cincinnati Bengals play at Paycor Stadium. The facility opened in the year 2000, and one really interesting thing about it is one of the escalators. It's extremely long and is not enclosed. It almost looks like a ride at an amusement park. Many fans have called it scary looking and say they would not ride on it. It appears to be extremely high up and would not be good if you're afraid of heights. Speaking of heights, the New England Patriots play at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, and inside there was a lighthouse behind one of the end zones. It was 100 feet tall and went just above the height of the scoreboard. People were also able to go inside of it. However, the lighthouse is being replaced by a bigger one that will be 218 feet tall. That lighthouse will open in 2023, and fans will be able to go inside of it all year round and have a 360-degree view. Another famous thing inside of an NFL stadium would be the Dallas Cowboys Jumbotron. Right above the 50-yard line in the center of the field, there's a massive scoreboard. There are 4 screens total, one for each area of the stadium to look at. This is more convenient than the traditional scoreboards in each end zone. The 2 largest screens measure 29 feet tall and 53 feet wide. However, the screens are just 90 feet above the playing field, and several times, punts have hit them since the stadium opened in 2009. Two other stadiums have done something similar. The Atlanta Falcons and SoFi Stadium have curving big screens for all the fans to see. They're both amazing to look at. And speaking of the Falcons' home, which is called Mercedes-Benz Stadium, there's something strange inside of it. It's that there's a Chick-fil-A inside the stadium. Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday, which is when the Falcons play most of their games. However, there are plenty of events inside the stadium, like college games, soccer games, and concerts that don't take place on Sundays, so the Chick-fil-A still gets plenty of business. Mercedes-Benz Stadium also has an interesting roof. It opens like flower petals, and it's probably the coolest way for a ceiling of a stadium to open. Next, we'll talk about Seattle. The stadium is called Lumen Field, and it opened in 2002. It's known as being one of the loudest stadiums in all of sports. There's a section of seating that's called the Hawk's Nest. The shape of it is very unique, and on top of it, there's a video board. Soldier Field is the oldest stadium in the NFL. It's the home of the Chicago Bears, and it opened way back in 1924. The Bears didn't make it their home field though until 1971, but they've played there ever since. This is what the stadium used to look like. In 2002, the stadium was closed for a massive renovation, and it reopened the next year in 2003. This is what it looks like now, but the Bears decided to keep the original column that looks very historic. It's nice that they kept it when they renovated the stadium. The second oldest stadium in the NFL is Lambeau Field, home of the Green Bay Packers, which opened in 1957. An interesting part of the stadium is the atrium. The Packers Hall of Fame is inside of it, and it's basically a museum inside the stadium. Fans can get tours of it, and it's a lot more than the typical displays that stadiums have around. One of the stranger things in all of the NFL stadiums would be the obstructed views in FedEx Field, home of the Washington Commanders. The stadium opened in 1997, but since then it's been renovated twice and expanded 3 times. The capacity has also changed 7 times over the years. This has caused some strange things throughout the stadium, like seats behind pillars. There's also pictures online of these seats at Lucas Oil Stadium, the home of the Colts. It's unclear if these seats are still there or if they've been removed, but that's certainly a terrible view. Ford Field is the home of the Detroit Lions. It is indoors and was built in 2002. The stadium was modeled to look similar to a warehouse because of the history of the city with the car factories. One part of the stadium is actually a former Hudson's warehouse that was built in the 1920s. This part is used mainly as offices. That's all for today's video. Thank you to everybody for watching, and thank you to all the new subscribers lately. We'll see you next time.